So a 9-week festival in inter-county hurling gets underway on the 25th of January with the start of the Allianz Hurling Leagues. The exciting programme features 116 games across 4 divisions in a campaign which will mark the 28th year of Allianz's partnership with the GAA as sponsor of the Allianz Leagues, making it one of the longest running sponsorships in Irish sport. To help launch it this morning here on OTB AM, we've got Wexford's Conor McDonald in studio. Conor, how are you doing?
Not too bad, yeah.
Well, do you like the league? Is it important? Where does it fit within the whole kind of league is league, championship is championship? But what's the benefit of league to you, or how do you feel about it?
I think league kind of just kickstarts everything, to be honest. The last number of years it's probably shown up to be more vital than when I probably first broke onto the panel, where it was that kind of league is league, championship is championship aspect of it all. But I think it's definitely playing a bigger role out than it did.
I'd say probably for individuals on a panel it's far more important than it used to be, because if you lose your place in the team during the league, it can be hard to get it back, but it can be an opportunity for you to put down some performances as well and just kind of separate yourself from whoever you're trying to get into the team ahead of. Yeah,
definitely. And I think even for new players who went well with their club and maybe it might be their first or second throw at the dice, or they've been in a panel for a number of years and they're wanting to make a real push, it's an opportunity to put their hands up and really go for it,
What was winter like for you guys? What was the general theme? Because it can go one of two ways after a defeat like your All-Ireland semi-final defeat. It can be all-consuming and that can eat away at you, or it can be all-consuming and it can be this brilliant thing to motivate you into the future. What's it like to live?
Well, it was definitely consuming for a while anyway, but I suppose when you break it down into the year and you look back on the year, if somebody was going to ask you or tell you even at the start of the year that you were going to win a Leinster title for the first time in 15 years and you were going to go so well in the semi-final and for it to kind of fall apart in the last 50 minutes, like you would have taken that as such, the Leinster final part anyway
at the start of the year.
You would have definitely taken it, but obviously looking back on it now, it's quite difficult to process that we were so close, and the only positive I can get from it is that Tipperary were the eventual winners and they beat us.
Yeah, and Tipperary were so clear winners in the final as well. I mean, obviously the sending off has an impact depending on how you feel about it, but at the same time it still felt like they were the best team in the final, and you guys were clearly the better team for the majority of the game until the very last bit where it's very important on the scoreboard. Do you process it? Do you try and process it? Do you go back and think and try and take lessons from that? Like, you think about Donaghy and him using brolly and having a picture of him when he's doing his sit-ups. It's Rocky style and it's old school, and it can definitely benefit. Or it can benefit a group of young players and a young team who are kind of 3 years on the road as opposed to 10 years on the road to go, doesn't matter, we're going to completely, that's just a stepping stone, next step. Which side of this? Is there a different way?
I think it nearly go hard to say is it has to benefit you, because if it doesn't, then it will eat up every kind of positive thing that you have in your head, especially going into a new year. You have to, I think there's an element of it too where you have to let it get inside you and make you feel the hurt. But if you don't use it and process it enough that you can use it without dwelling on it too much, then obviously you can turn it into a positive. Yeah,
because it would be pointless not to live that experience and not to use it in some way.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, for so long in that game we were on top, and I suppose the biggest thing we need to do going forward is know that where it went wrong and to make sure it doesn't happen again. Especially in the manner of which it did. And
have you diagnosed exactly what happened?
Well, sure. There's a number of things. I think for whatever we didn't do, or whatever way we didn't perform in the last, I think Tipperary played out of their skin as well. I think they had 5 points on the trot there out of 5 attacks, which is rare enough without a wide, or especially with it being a man down and
the pressure
and stuff like that.
Under,
exactly, yeah. And they threw caution to the wind, and it paid off for them. I think on our side of things, we probably veered away from our game plan a good bit. We were start going along with bookouts and stuff, and
that was the weird thing, really, when you think about it. That the success of the team had been built on sticking to this rigorous game plan, and then with the finish line in sight, there was a bit of white line fever or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, maybe so. I suppose looking in from the outside, obviously it would seem that way. It's hard to call what exactly the initial thing was. I just think that our game plan was so rigid for so long. We're kind of known as a team that run the ball and do it pretty well. And look, if you veer away from that and what's working against a team like Kilkenny, they are going to punish you. And look, we paid the ultimate price.
Yeah, because I actually when you go back and watch the game in the cold light of day, some of the stuff that you were doing in that match was the high watermark of the stuff that you've done under Davy. The goal, there's a brilliant behind the camera angle of the goal that ends up being a tap in the right corner, but actually comes the whole way down the left hand side. Yeah. And the quality of the stick work and the off the ball running, you can see it. You can see the run develop, and it's just this perfect run into space, and the ball is delivered perfectly. And then there's another perfect. You're like, this is stuff that is like. It's Ajax in the 70s, it's Barcelona. Yeah. There must have been a real sense of being in the zone at that moment.
Yeah, of course, and I suppose being in the zone, you can only kind of feel that if you've done it before, or you've put in the work and on the training ground. And I think the biggest thing we probably had this year was the trust that everyone was going to do their job, and that was everybody's job to take the right option, move with the ball, whatever it may be. That nothing seems like a surprise on the day. So I'd say that's probably the biggest disheartening thing in the end, when we did veer away from that, knowing that we had trained ourselves to do the opposite, essentially.
Yeah, and yet because you did reach that high in the middle of the game, you kind of there's lots to build on. It's not a complete disaster. It's not like you went in the first minute and got cleaned out because everybody went off script and everybody started being individuals as opposed to a team.
Yeah, exactly. I think, look, like I said, even to the general public now, people think it seems to be this one that got away, but at the same time, there's a lot of learning to be done on that particular game, and considering we hadn't won anything in 15 years, it's it can be easy to say it's it was a disappointment, but you have to realise probably where we've came from as well. That kind of way.
I was in holidays. I was saying to you off air there. I was in holidays in Gorey during the summer last year, and we were in the traffic on the way up on the day of the Ireland semi-final, and it was amazing. It was shitty being stuck in traffic, but it was absolutely amazing that there was this mass migration of Wexford people up to Dublin for such a huge game, and this came on the back of the team bus arriving into Gorey and those scenes, which I presume are going to live with you forever.
Yeah, Jesus, sometimes you can barely even get the words out, and how I felt that night. I actually used to do a drugs test after the game. So I wasn't sure whether I was going to get back to Gorey, and there was all my friends from home
where are you?
Text me or send me videos, patiently waiting, and I'm thinking in my head I'm waiting on the lift here in Croke Park, everyone's gone.
Did you make it?
Made it, yeah. The lads got off in Arklow and got the bus we got the train up, so we got train to Arklow and then got a bus from there to Gorey, and it was absolutely unbelievable. You're nearly getting goosebumps here now, even talking about it. It's just something that you've always dreamed of doing, and it's probably something that I haven't really seen. It's stuff I've heard about, 96 and stuff like that, so it's something that you feel like could be done, but you've never seen, that kind of way. We witnessed it slightly with the club, crowd-wise, and the mass of people that were out in the street. That seemed a little bit more special, because it was just a smaller group of people with all your friends and family, but in regards to the crowd and the mass of people that were on Gorey Street like that day, it was just nuts.
I know people travelled all over to go down and see it because they kind of had a sense that something special was going to happen. The other thing that can happen in instances like that is that it can get to a team's head. You can, look, we've made it now, we've won Leinster, but that didn't happen. It really felt like, certainly for the first 50 minutes, that it had inspired the team and it had inspired the group, that you'd become something much bigger than a team because it felt a bit like maybe in previous years, if you'd won a Leinster, the 60,000 you showed up for the first Leinster final that you got to recently, that felt like that was the end, right? That was kind of the end of that team, because, okay, we've done our bit here, but it's almost like the group has matured, your ambitions have got bigger.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I think even from where we came from, like you said, in 2017, from losing that final convincingly enough, where I think we were beaten by 10 or 11 points in the end of that one. like to come then into another Leinster final, it could have been the old scenario of you're getting cold feet, here you go on the big day again.
Yeah. What changed?
I don't know. I think, like you said, I just think probably the group as a whole have probably got a little bit more mature, and I think we've just probably learned from our mistakes and on days that seem to matter so much more. But at the end of the day, they're still the same game as if they were played in your local pitch. It's still going to be played the same.
When you were a young teenager and a teenager, the Grey Kilkenny team was, as a matter of course, hammering Wexford and hammering Offaly and hammering Dublin in the Leinster Championship. That's gone. Those days are over, and you guys are part of that generation that's changed that now. So I presume you feel like you're here for the long haul, and you're looking at what happened with Limerick and, to a lesser extent, this Tipperary team, obviously, because they've been there before, but with Galway over the last couple of years, and going, why the hell shouldn't it be us?
Yeah, I think probably from our under-21 days, there's a good core group of that. We had 3 Leinsters in a row. So I think from, I don't know, bleeding these lads in over the last number of years, of kind of came from a bit of success at that level, and beating the likes of Kilkennys and the Dublins and the Galways on big days at the time. You just kind of don't really think you're going to get hammered. You don't think, oh geez, we're going to be under pressure. You just think, hang on, like, we've been doing this all our lives, so why should this change now just because a good Kilkenny team, or a great, probably the best team of all time a couple of years ago, that doesn't mean that that's what they are now. Do you know what I mean? So, or it doesn't mean that they just have to win every day they go out. Same as any other team. The Galway team of 2017, they hadn't won, they'd been beaten in so many finals. And Limerick the same. They just seem to come from nowhere. So like you said, I think every team now in the top tier feel like every year could be their year.
It takes a sequence of a couple of results and a bit of
it takes
a bit of confidence. Just to briefly ask you about with the state of the game at the moment and how difficult or otherwise it is for somebody to maintain a work-life balance as an inter-county player. Like, we all know the stories, the training sessions, and the training that Davy does is legendarily difficult. You set up your own business as well, so there's that kind of part of being somebody who has to do all the stuff that having your own business is, and also being an inter-county athlete. How is that work-life balance for you? How do you do that?
To be honest, I actually feel like when you're not in a normal season, it can be actually a little bit more difficult, because you've your social life, you've maybe your club hurling or whatever it may be, and then you've work as well, so you've 3. Whereas now, the social life is kind of put to one side for a while, and it's more kind of structured. To be honest, you probably have to structure your work week around when you're training or when your games are at. So
do you have a gym? You set up a gym?
Yeah, and I to be honest, I probably am a little bit in a bit of a fortunate situation whereby I can some way organise my hours. I'm not quite sure if I'd be able to be sitting in an office from 9 to 5 in Dublin and drive down like some of the lads do. I just wonder how they have the mental capacity to do that. But look, at the end of the day, when you see the rewards of what you can get from something, like you can see why you do it, and it kind of motivates you to do it and do everything you can to.
What are those rewards? Winning in All-Ireland, is that what it is? Is that?
Yeah, it's just there's so many different levels to rewards. Like, winning a Leinster, so many people think like, okay, you win something, and I've often heard people say, oh, I'd win one and then that'd be me finished.
Yeah.
I probably would have said it myself. I remember saying with the club, like, geez, I'd love to win the first county title. You nearly, as people would say, die a happy man. Like, but then you get this urge, like, wanting that again. It's nearly like an addiction of saying, hang on, this feeling is, you want it to last forever. So,
but are there other things along the way? Like, so if for example, I hope this doesn't happen, but say you didn't win in All-Ireland, do you feel like you could have a fulfilling playing career, that you would have achieved enough if you drive yourself to levels of excellence that are as far as you can possibly go? Because if your only definition of success is bound up in winning or losing a trophy at the end of the year, everybody in the country is unfulfilled apart from the Tipperary hurlers last year, and maybe that's how it should be in elite sports. But what?
I would say definitely if you're involved in a panel, well, I certainly know I would be very, very disappointed if, especially with the panel that we have now at the moment, and the group of players that we have and the kind of core group we've had over the last 5 or 6 years, if I was to wind up not winning an All-Ireland with those, I'd be telling you a lie if I thought I'd be happy with that. That's just straight up. If I winded up not winning an All-Ireland, I'm sure if you asked, the likes of Brick Walsh, who has been unbelievable, he's picked up all stars, he'd trade them all in, I'm sure, he's just one example of so many.
Yeah, he is a good example though, because I think the rest of the country thinks he's had a great career.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's had an unbelievable career. He's been a stalwart for them for so many years. I don't know whether he would measure success on that.
I'm sure he does.
I'm sure he does measure his success, but if you don't win an All-Ireland, I would say you measure your success differently after your playing career is over.
Yeah, it's true. It's just because you go back to the Dublin footballers and they talk about values and their values as individuals, and that's what drives the team, and that ultimately the success or failure, if they're good people, they're going to end up. It's okay for them to say that though, because they've got 5 All-Irelands. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I agree with that in some ways too. I think
they're totally right.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Just that
but it's they can focus on their values a little bit.
Do Mayo feel the same, for example? I wonder.
Yeah, of course. If you ask any of the Mayo footballers now, when would you say you've had a really, really successful career? They would say when they win an Ireland. It won't be on how many Connacht titles they've won, because they've won so many. It's a similar sort of situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would measure the absolute success of my career on All Irelands, because they're so hard to come by, but I definitely would say that it would
be a gap there.
Enhance the success.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough answer. And then just in terms of the balance, I think of other GA players who've opened gyms, and obviously TJ Reid, he's pretty good. There's been a few others who've done it as well, and they've extended their careers because they just get interested in the level of elite fitness you have, and they've got access to stuff, and there's just a professional personal development. It's a good career to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, to be honest, my main thing would be that the reason I thought of opening up my own gym was to help people essentially. And that's probably the biggest fulfillment I get from it. I know, obviously, from my own, physical aspect on things, you can work on that a little bit more than what somebody would, if they're working in an office or whatever it may be, or on a building site or whatever. There's obviously that side of it, but to me, I get the greatest satisfaction I get is literally helping people, and not always the people who are playing sports, even at a club level. I don't have too many of those. I'd rather the average person coming in and they just want to change their life some way.
Yeah.
And I probably get a bigger kick out of that than anything, or I definitely get a bigger kick out of it than doing an extra couple of gym sessions just because I have a gym. You know, that kind of way. So
yeah. Well, listen, best of luck with it all, and thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.